Let's talk manifestation, shall we? Now, before you click off, I'm not about to tell you to write your wishes on a piece of paper, put it underneath your pillow, and wake up rich. That would be fabulous, and I wish I could, but I can't. I ain't no expert on calling things in. Working on it though. But I've been in enough rooms. I've done a good amount of work on myself, had my fair share of conversations on this topic, and I have seen some things in these internet streets, and I have some thoughts. So let's get into it. Now, for the longest time, I thought manifestation was about saying the right affirmations, thinking positive enough, visualizing hard enough, being high vibe enough. And if I'm honest, sometimes it works temporarily, but nothing truly stayed. And then I came to realize that the manifestation itself was never the issue. My capacity was. And I think that that's the part a lot of these manifestations skip over. Not all, but a lot. People are out here trying to call in love while their nervous system still expects abandonment, trying to call in abundance while their body is still living in survival, trying to manifest visibility while unconsciously fearing judgment, rejection, failure, success, or being fully seen. And I am guilty of that. Guilty. And no amount of repeating, I am abundant, changes what your body still believes is unsafe. Affirmations, they don't work if your nervous system still feels unsafe. Your body will reject what your mind is trying to force, and manifestation without embodiment can very quickly become escapism. That doesn't mean manifestation is fake, but it does mean that we may have been taught to approach manifestation a little backwards. And I think that this is where a lot of people get stuck because sometimes what we call manifestation is actually emotional escape. Sometimes we're not trying to create from alignment, we're trying to escape ourselves. We're trying to escape our current reality, escape our pain, escape our insecurities, our frustrations, escape the fear that maybe we are not enough as we are. So then the manifestation becomes more emotionally loaded. Like, I need this relationship. I need this money. I need this opportunity. I need this version of myself to happen right now so I can feel safe, worthy, whole. But there's a difference between desire and dependency, right? There's a difference between I deeply desire this and I believe my wholeness depends on this. And your body knows the difference. Your body keeps score of what your mind is trying to force. And I think that's why so many people feel stuck in a cycle of procrastination, burnout, collapse, avoidance, overthinking, inconsistency, self sabotage. And honestly, when you think about it, I think a lot of what we call self sabotage is actually self protection. The body perceives risk before the conscious mind catches up, right? So if your nervous system still associates visibility with danger, success with pressure, love with abandonment, and money with instability, then your body may resist the very thing your mind is trying to call in. Some part of you still believes it's protecting you, right? And that's why affirmations alone often don't land or just we feel disconnected from them. Words spoken consciously cannot override a body living unconsciously in survival. Now, I am not at all in any way anti manifestation practices at all. I subscribe to the whimsy way of life. I love ritual. I love prayer. I love intention setting. And I still believe energy matters deeply. I mean, magic is energy, manifestation is energy. But what I've learned is energy becomes unstable when the self underneath is unstable. And I think a lot of people are unknowingly trying to manifest externally before they've actually built internal safety, self trust, emotional capacity, or even identity stability. So they're constantly trying to call things in while unconsciously bracing against receiving them. And that creates energetic conflict, right? Because consciously you're saying, I want love, but unconsciously you don't trust love. Consciously, I want abundance, but unconsciously you fear visibility, responsibility, instability, judgment, maybe even failure. So the body stays guarded and the nervous system always wins. And I also think that we need to have a real conversation about manifestation, the manifestation industry itself. Because a lot of these programs are packaged so beautifully. They sound revolutionary. They sound like the missing key. And sometimes there is real wisdom and medicine in them. But a lot of the concepts aren't actually new. They're repackaging identity work, nervous system work, emotional regulation. It's all just wrapped up in enticing language and sold as rapid transformation. And listen, I'm not saying transformation can't happen quickly because it absolutely can. But I do think that the internet has created this fantasy that healing, embodiment, abundance, and self worth should happen instantly in 7 days, in 21 days, in 27 days. You can quantum leap your life overnight. And it's created this like Amazon Prime next day delivery outcome expectancy. Meanwhile, some people are carrying a generational blueprint of unresolved wounds and or decades of survival patterns, trauma, fear, self-abandonment, emotional suppression, hyper-independence, shame. And then they think that they failed manifestation because they couldn't override years of conditioning in a month. But it's so far from failure. Honestly, it's being human. People don't fail manifestation because they're low vibe. A lot of people aren't successful with it because their body still does not feel safe receiving what they're asking for. The biggest shift happened for me when I stopped obsessing over outcomes and I started rebuilding my relationship with myself. I stopped trying to manifest money and I started building self trust. I stopped trying to manifest love and I started healing self abandonment. I stopped trying to force confidence and started creating safety inside my body. Manifestation becomes more sustainable when it's rooted in embodiment. That's my belief. When your body feels safe enough to hold what you're calling in, when your identity expands naturally, when your nervous system stops perceiving desires as threats, when your actions become aligned instead of desperate, and when you stop chasing worthiness and start practicing self authority. I feel like that changes everything. And abundance is so much bigger than money. Money matters, safety matters, resources absolutely matter. But abundance can also look like peace in your nervous system, healthy boundaries, the ability to rest without guilt, the courage to say no, self respect, emotional regulation, clarity, community, alignment, capacity, grief finally moving through your body, being able to trust yourself again, being able to hear your own voice again, or maybe even for the first time. That is abundance too. And ironically, those internal shifts often create the external shifts people were chasing all along. And that's also why alignment alone isn't enough, because alignment is not passive. The nervous system still needs evidence. Reality still requires participation. You cannot vision board your way out of avoidance, and you cannot affirm your way around self abandonment. Transformation is not only energetic, it is behavioral, it's embodied, it's lived. And the body learns through experience, right? Through repetition, through action, through proving to yourself again and again, I can survive discomfort. I can make different choices. I can hold myself more than I used to. And slowly the identity begins to shift. Not because you forced it, but because your body finally started believing you. But also, I think people on the outside looking in who haven't walked the self or life evolving path or are at the very beginning of their journey misunderstand what healing or manifestation actually looks like in real time. There's this idea that once you start thinking positively, once you start shifting your mindset, once you start aligning, that suddenly the fear just disappears. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Sometimes the complete opposite happens. Sometimes the moment you decide, I deserve more, I'm ready, I want different, or I'm available for abundance, love, visibility, success, etc., etc., the wounds get loud. The old identities get loud. The survival patterns get loud. And suddenly there's this voice saying, who do you think you are? You're not ready. You're not worthy. What if you fail? You know you're going to fail, right? What if you lose it? What if it's too much for you? Don't you think it's too much for you? I think it's too much for you. And then I think a lot of people assume that that means they're doing something wrong. But sometimes it simply means you've reached the edge of an old identity. And the goal isn't necessarily to scream over those wounds with fake positivity. I'm so against fake and forced positivity. It's not, no, I am worthy when your body is internally panicking. Sometimes the deeper work sounds more like, I hear that fear. I understand why it exists, but you are no longer leading my life. I've already decided who I'm becoming. I've already decided what I deserve. I've already decided that I will no longer abandon myself. And honestly, that feels different in the body, in the energy, because that energy isn't performative positivity. It's self-leadership, it's self-authority. It's the moment that the wounded parts of you stop driving the entire vehicle. And that doesn't mean fear disappears overnight. It means fear no longer becomes the final decision maker. And maybe that's what manifestation actually becomes when we strip away the performance of it. Not controlling life, not forcing outcomes, not obsessively trying to attract everything, but learning how to become deeply connected to yourself, to your body, your truth, your choices, your capacity, your healing, your direction, right? Because self-connection, it often creates better external outcomes than obsession with outcomes ever will. And maybe abundance was never only about money. Maybe abundance is about self-trust, self-respect, safety within yourself, emotional capacity, clarity, peace, rest, even support, community, maybe even purpose. Yeah, abundance can honestly be about so much more. I stopped trying to manifest a perfect life, and I started learning how to stop abandoning myself inside the life that I already had. Strangely enough, it changed everything slowly, but things started to change. So no, I don't think affirmations are useless. I absolutely do not think that manifestation spaces are fake. And I don't think that manifestation workshops and practices are pointless. But I do think that these tools and spaces become more powerful when they're paired with embodiment, with honesty, with nervous system work, with emotional awareness, with identity healing, with self connection, because you cannot sustainably build a beautiful life while abandoning yourself to create it. And maybe the real manifestation is becoming someone who no longer has to chase worthiness for outcomes or force outcomes or beg life to choose them. Maybe the real manifestation is finally feeling safe enough to choose yourself. And then from there, you build. Thanks for coming to my next talk. See you next time.